So do you play every week or no?
Normally, yeah. I play with my dad.
Yeah.
It's a good way we bond.
Oh, yeah.
Have a little bit of competition.
Uh-huh.
We're both we're not good, but we're competitive. So it keeps us on our toes.
You guys, La Fortune or?
At Meadowbrook a lot.
Meadowbrook.
Yeah.
We rolling? Yeah. All right. Well, we got Brody Gibson on the podcast. Man, I'm excited. We're kind of shifting the focus of, but whenever we started this, I was like, all right, I gotta have all these questions, and now I'm just like, I'm shifted to more like, okay, I'm more focused on Brody and what's Brody up to, and kind of the conversation sparks that way. So thanks for coming on. Yeah, how's it going?
Good. Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I think
excited?
it's important to be open to whatever comes about. You don't want to have a weird conversation where you have a plan and it's awkward. So I appreciate you. Yeah.
We just started a couple weeks ago. We just started a little coffee group thing on Fridays. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of funny timing now having you up here on the podcast. We're doing just not that y'all really care, but we're doing a coffee meetup for we call it like young professionals. We don't really have a name for it, but basically every 2 weeks just getting together for coffee on Friday mornings, and not like spamming people with invites, but just creating a space for guys to come in if they want and just talk about life, be vulnerable, because I think you could probably speak to this too. I feel like there's not, at least most guys our age don't feel comfortable or confident talking being vulnerable with people throughout the majority of their day. I mean, most people kind of have a facade or a wall up, and I felt like that way a little bit at work. I mean, you work in the office. I mean, are you pretty close with the guys you work with?
I have great relationships with the guys that I work with, but it's a smaller company.
Yeah.
And, I'm close in age to the guys that I'm with every day. We're all working in similar things. So we kind of stay in the same, wavelength to that kind of thing. But, with the coffee group, you had reached out about it, and it seemed like a no-brainer just because like we had the same kind of vision of just wanting a place for guys to have community and guys to be able to have like just a group of guys that they can go to with anything. 'Cause the hardest thing about whatever it is that you're facing is that you feel like you're facing it alone.
Right.
And as men, we don't love being vulnerable. No. I don't love being vulnerable. Nobody does.
No one does.
But just a setting like that is just a place where you have guys who have your back no matter what it is.
Yeah.
And especially with, our spiritual maturity, not that we're spiritually mature, but just that we can provide encouragement and provide like godly advice to one another so that not only are you not alone, but you're also being built up in a way that you're able to do more than just like put a facade over it, put a mask on it.
Yeah, because I guess we do that naturally as men and as humans. I don't know, why do we do that? What is so difficult about like opening up and being real with people? Because how much more beneficial and effective could we be if we were truly showing like wearing our heart on our sleeve all day, every day with everybody? Because that's kind of what we're called to do, right? As believers, I think. But I think as men and as guys, we almost feel like we've always got to be portraying to others that we've got it together, and that we're not lacking or we're not insecure or we're not. And I don't know. It's kind of a widespread thing, but I think it's cool. I always go back to identity because that's truly if you understand your identity in Christ, that's when all those insecurities and stuff kind of go by the wayside, because you're not trying to be someone that you're not. And I think that's what's encouraging about the body of Christ, and about getting around a group of guys that, like you're saying, build you up with the word and encourage you, is even in a down season or a bad time in your life, if ish just hit the fan, like, you've got guys around you that are going to speak life. And if you're walking through life by yourself and trying to figure out, all the problems on your own, you're going to be picked off by the enemy. And that's kind of the thought process here at the church. It's like, if you're doing it alone, you're doing it wrong, because you're just vulnerable if you're not in community with guys. So, yeah.
No, I agree. I think the facade or the mask that people put on, it's the natural thing to do, because you think that not only are you maybe alone in what you're dealing with, but if people saw what was really going on, you wouldn't be accepted, or you wouldn't have this reputation that you desire, or this status that you want to achieve.
Yeah.
When in reality, I feel like the moments in my life where I've been influenced the most, like I think back to a teacher I had in high school, Coach K, AJ Claire Cooper. He changed my life because of how real and open and honest he was. Like his relationship with God wasn't something that he was just saying all the right words. It was something that he had personal revelation on and personal relationship with God. And so when he spoke about it, and when he, poured into his students, it was a worldview class, and we just asked him random Bible related things, and just how to navigate life. Cause high school,
look over, look at wave LT. I can literally hear you from 50 yards away down the hallway. Here he comes.
Hey, thank you, LT. But yeah, Coach K, he was. You have to be confident in yourself enough to be able to lay those things down, those facades and those ideas that you have about yourself, because for God to be able to use you, you have to lay yourself down in a sense. It's okay, it's not what I want anymore. It's what God wants for me.
Right.
And ultimately that's going to get you to a better place, but it's hard to let go of the things that you think you're holding on to.
Yeah. What has that been for you? I mean, and I'm just thinking through that. That's exactly right. Have you always taken that position? I mean,
no.
I haven't either. I know. I mean, I certainly haven't. I'm just now starting to understand these things as I grow more mature in my walk with Christ. I guess, yeah. I mean, when did you realize that, or when did that shift for you? I'm sure because you were a baseball player, played baseball at ORU. I'm sure at some point, sports was part of your identity. I mean, when did you start? When did you kind of step into that realization that, my life belongs to the Lord, and whatever that looks like is His, and my identity is in Christ?
Yeah, I think it does. For me, it goes back to identity, because it's what how you view yourself, and how you are able to have confidence in yourself. It has to come from something.
Right.
And yeah, my history definitely has a lot to do with baseball. I was not very good at, I think, being real with myself. You can almost put a facade or put a mask on that hides your own identity from yourself, or what you want it to be. Because my greatest desire was to be successful in baseball, which is a great desire. Nothing wrong with that. But all of my identity came from who I was as a baseball player. It wasn't I hated myself outside of that, but the value that I had and the future that I had and the hope that I had all related to that. And so when I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be, you take a hit. You're okay, well, now that that's not there, what am I left with?
Right.
And luckily I was at ORU, where there's the resources all around you to get connected and get to, have a life-giving approach, whereas other places maybe not.
Right. Did you enjoy ORU? Like the school part?
Yeah, it's funny. I work with a couple of guys from ORU, and they were only a year older, so they'll be like, "Oh, did you ever know this person? Did you ever know this person?" And I never do. Yeah. I did a horrible job being an ORU student.
Yeah,
baseball was my focus for sure. But I
you weren't a good student.
No, I meant like socially.
Okay.
I was a good enough student. I feel like
good enough grades. You seem like a 4-point type of guy. Maybe it's that button up I'm looking at. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the
quarter
facade.
zip.
It's the facade.
It's the facade. He's a real estate bro.
I mean, I did okay in school. I got a finance degree, and then COVID came, so I had another year of eligibility, and so I got my MBA. But I was not the guy who was like answering questions in class or anything like that. I was the guy who like couldn't pay attention and then would have to go home and like learn it for myself because I would just get lost in what the teachers were saying. Yeah. But yeah, I was a little bit, I don't want to say an outcast. I was an outcast compared to like the normal ORU life.
Sure.
But I had friends on the team and stuff like that.
I've just got this crazy, wicked, like outsider perspective on ORU. Not bad, but not necessarily good either.
What is it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just like, I could be totally off, but like, I feel like with all the things that are required of the students, like the chapel attendance, and I mean, I know there's like kind of a strict, I'm sure there's like curfew and all kinds of, I mean, how effective is that stuff? And actually, because in my mind, and it kind of is the same idea. And you went to a private Christian high school as well. Mm-hmm. I feel like through conversation and through observation of people that were raised and required to attend like strict schools, I feel like sometimes that breeds the opposite. I feel like sometimes that like keeps like honestly turns people away from what like a true relationship with Jesus looks like. I think it can be really good for a certain type of person, but for another group, I feel like, and this might just be more unique to like athletes that are traveling and coming to a private Christian university for simply the athletic part. Yeah. Then their experience or relationship or stance position when it comes to Christianity and their like relationship with Jesus is skewed as a result of all these requirements. When it comes to, you got to be a chapel and you got to, you can't, I don't know what the rules with like male, female were, but what, did you have any experience?
Yeah. I mean, there was the,
not that I'm bad mouthing ORU because it's a fantastic university and, I love the idea of it, but I just, from someone that's actually been there, I've been from the outsider's perspective, so I could be totally wrong.
Yeah. You sign the, I don't know, not the student handbook, but whatever the
code of ethics or something.
That says like, you're not going to do all those things. And
not going to drink, not going to smoke.
You're not going to drink, you're not going to use tobacco. You're not going to, like basically all the things that you just talked about. And then there's like rules for freshmen about like curfews and stuff like that. Is that to get accepted into the university? No. I think it's, I don't know that you have to sign it. Is that just for athletics? Okay. No. It's for everybody. I don't know that you have to sign it, but I know that it's
strongly encouraged.
Maybe. I feel like I remember guys who didn't sign it, but maybe not. Maybe you have to. But you do. To your point, there was a lot of guys, athletes who come in who know it's a Christian school, but maybe grew up with, a completely different background. And if the perception that they have of ORU and of like Christianity and of an actual like godly life is just rules, I would think that is missing the mark. To me, I think that it's all about the perspective that you have on it. So if I'm an athlete coming in and I just see it as rules, I would think that that's probably a negative. Yeah. But if I'm a student who like my heart is to go to ORU to get all that ORU has, I think that those rules are implemented to like keep the guidelines on your life so that you can get the most out of ORU as possible. So I don't know. That's
a really mature perspective. The second one, I just don't think, I can't imagine that there's very many college students that are like, man, I just love these. Like, I mean, maybe
it's not that you love the rules. And to be honest, this is coming from a guy who broke every rule. Like, I mean,
you're a rule breaker.
I paid the chapel fines. I did all the stuff. I had a lot of learning in college, but it's like, I mean, it's like with anything else, the rules themselves aren't bad, but it's like,
what's your heart posture?
What's your heart posture with it? Are they rules, or are they things that are going to help you grow in your relationship with God?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
It's the same thing with, everything else in our life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's good. I mean, and once again, I guess it depends on the individual and the way that they perceive that. But you had an overall positive experience at ORU. I mean, that was a little too, I considered going to ORU a couple different times, but I was like, man, it was way too close to my parents' house. I was like, I can't do it. But, so you went through some kind of maturing, growing years through college. And I mean, I think I going back to that question I asked about stepping to, like, I guess, did you have like a come to Jesus moment after you moved on from baseball that made you, did you have to shed that part of your identity? Was that painful? How did you kind of reconcile, who you were outside of the baseball?
I think that I let go of that, maybe not let go of that dream, because like even the last year that I was playing, it wasn't like I wasn't working hard or wasn't desiring to play professionally, but it was like I had let go of the requirement of it, where it's like, I'm going to be okay if this doesn't happen.
Right.
So I would say the life-altering moment for me, it wasn't one moment. It was just kind of the realization of like, okay, I'm looking at my life and there are some things that aren't great. Mm-hmm. Like just in like, like things were great, but more so like my heart, like how I perceived myself, how I perceived my future, how I perceived like the person that I was. Mm-hmm. And I think that was my kind of realization. It was like, okay, who do I want to be? Mm-hmm. What kind of person, what kind of things do I want to be involved in? What kind of people do I want to be associated with? Mm-hmm. Like the conversations that my name's brought into.
Sure.
And not in a sense where it's like, oh, I care what people think, but it's like, I care who I am and ultimately who God created me to be.
Sure.
If that person, if God created me to be a certain way, then I have to like actively choose and decide to align with that and to pursue a relationship with him that gets me there. Otherwise it's all like, it's not fulfilling. Like there's so many things out there, that are just so many, I had to learn a lot of lessons the hard way. And I can speak to the fact that, it's not fulfilling unless it's God. Like it's not, like I always felt like something was off unless I was pursuing God. That's the only way I knew how to say it.
Yeah. Because you're missing that piece that only that he can provide. And you felt that way. You're saying in college is like you'd kind of veer off and then you're like, okay, and then you'd start pursuing the Lord again. That's how I kind of was in college too. Yeah. Where you always kind of knew what the right thing was, but, you certainly tried your own way several times, and it's like always the piece was this way. So that's good. And so I guess after you graduated, and hung up baseball, were you, so I guess there was never like the pinnacle or climax of identity crisis. You kind of always, you were pretty on the straight and narrow, even like in college, relative to a lot of guys that are in school. So there was never really like a big dramatic shift in your identity. But was that, I guess, after you hung it up, was that a hard transition, like into like your job or like pursuing a career? Where were you at with like, were you and Kate engaged at that point or?
Yeah. So to the point about the straight and narrow, I would definitely say I was off the straight and narrow.
Okay, but you were much better than a lot of.
I wasn't
guys our
the
age.
worst, but this is a good way to put it. If you walked into a certain setting, you wouldn't tell me apart. Like in a lot of ways, I was.
You were just going with the.
I was just
crowd.
like everybody else.
Yeah.
In that sense, and it's because I didn't like. I wanted to be liked, and I wanted to
course.
be. Yeah.
As we all do.
No, so I stopped playing baseball after my 5th year because of COVID. Got the extra year of eligibility. Kate and I got engaged. We got married about a month after I quit playing. I hadn't even gotten a job yet.
Really?
And because I had kind of faced some of those like realization moments already, I feel like the transition for me was a lot sooner, or not sooner, a lot smoother. Because it wasn't like I had lost this huge piece of me that couldn't be replaced.
Right.
I think in a lot of ways, it was refreshing to step into a new season where, a lot of the things that like baseball's hard, just in itself, and so much of your time and your like mental energy, there's a way to put it, I guess, is wrapped up in that. It's like every day, like what you eat, where you go, all of that was centered around baseball, not in a way where I was like out of priorities, but it's like, it has to be because it takes up so much time.
Yeah.
So when I stepped out of that, I felt like it was an opportunity to, kind of like be refreshed by the time that I had that was my own, where I could choose what I want to do, where if I want to go work out, I can work out whatever I want to work out. It's not like a written script or anything, or, you miss the, like being with the guys and just the
camaraderie.
The camaraderie, the dumb stuff you do in the locker room or like on the bus and stuff like that. You're always going to miss that. But in a way, I think that I felt like I regained like control of my time and of my life in a way that I hadn't had in a long time.
Yeah.
So that for me was really great. But I know a lot of guys who had a different kind of transition where
it's a little bit more smack you in the face type.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. I mean, it is so hard not for it to be part of.
We need to get a sign on that door out there.
It's so hard for it not to be part of your identity because it is like 80% of your time, 90% of your mental thoughts. And I mean, there's people out there who show up to practice and games and then afterwards don't think about it. Props to them. Yeah. I was not one of those guys.
Yeah.
And so in a way it felt.
There's no way to get great thinking that way, not thinking that way, right?
It's funny. Some of the best, like most talented, most successful guys that I ever played with were guys that could just like turn their brain off. It was crazy. I am the opposite.
You like hyper obsess?
I don't know if I'm like very much a critical thinker and like a problem solver, and it can kind of tend to be an overthinker. And
me too.
That is something that, I think probably held me back a lot, but the guys that could just go up there without a thought in the world, without a care.
Yeah. Man,
there were some guys like that just tore it up.
Well, and I think there's something to be said about just playing, playing, but also like that's just, they're loose because they're not constricted by any like thoughts that are constraining them in any way, it is a gift to be able to just play that freely, and the results of that are good because you're just playing freely.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to live. Not reckless, obviously, but and I think there is that type of freedom that we are able to operate in as a believer, where there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. All of the weight of the world, all of the weight of like heavy decisions. What does Jesus say? in Matthew, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Like that's kind of what I think of when I think about the way those people think relative to sports is like, there's just not that you're supposed to be just carefree and live like, live recklessly, but there is just that freedom that, man, truly you're not able to find that anywhere in the world.
No, and I think that's something that I've continued to have to work at even after baseball.
Yeah.
Like I've noticed some of the like the thought patterns or like this idea of having to be able to perform. That's something that like you can put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Totally.
You can like if your identity or expectation of an outcome is tied to like how you think about yourself before you go into whatever it is, you're thinking about it because you have to be successful. You have to get the right answer. You have to hit the right number, whatever it is. But when you have to be able to take that step back and know, like, God's got me. I'm safe.
I'm a new creation. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So it's now I'm a vessel. I mean, and I think, I think a lot of people would listen and hear that and think that's weird. It's like, it sounds weird and it's really, I guess it could potentially be a hard concept for people to understand or wrap their mind around if they're not living it. Cause like I think about back in the day, thinking about me being a new creation or me, like my life no longer belongs to me and it's Christ who lives in me. That's a really hard thing to try and in the natural realm, right? In the carnal mind, that's a hard thing to try and understand, but there's so much freedom.
Yeah.
Cause it's like, now I understand that I'm just a vessel.
Yeah.
Like I am just a vehicle for advancing the kingdom. Like, and it's like, you almost, and it's not diminishing yourself down to like, but there's a humility in that where it's like, who am I to think that I've got to perform? Who am I to think that I have to achieve this certain thing? Or, it's like, no, I'm just a vessel for the kingdom of God. And if I don't achieve or do or whatever, what I think is the right thing, then fine. Because obviously, if the Lord's hand is on my life, whatever needs to get accomplished will, if I'm submitted to him. So it's just it's kind of an interesting.
Yeah. The moments in my life where I've you can call it revelation of where I was struggling with that kind of thing. And then you had this moment where I feel like God revealed to me it's about control. It's about you're trying to control the outcome, the situation, how people view you, how successful you are. You have to give that to me. You have to give your identity to me. You have to give the things that you think that you need to me. Because in reality, I probably don't need most the things that I worry about.
Right.
I probably don't need to get the I don't know, hit the batting average in that case or get the test result or
shoot a 75.
Shoot a 75. Most of those things I don't need. What I need is to be to know that he is in control. Because when he's in control, I can be at peace and just live freely. Not carefree in the sense that I don't care about anything, but carefree in the sense of I know that he's in control and there's safety under that. And that's the freedom that he's called us to live. That's a burden that is easy or a yoke that is easy and a burden that is light.
Yeah.
Because I'm not carrying the weight of it anymore. I've given up the control of it to God, saying, you got it.
Yeah.
And I trust you.
Well, and that's where, and at that point, I was thinking back to the mindset of the ball players that can get up and not think. And it's just like, how much more effective can you be whenever you take that position where there's a freedom, but there's also an effectiveness. I think back into Roger Walsh's class in the school of ministry, he was talking about humility and submission to God. And basically the more humble, the lower we can take ourselves, the more effective we can be, because the Lord can use me only to the extent of my humility.
Yeah.
The more humble I can take myself, the more the Lord can use me. The more the Lord will want to use me, because the more effective I will be as his vessel.
Yeah.
Because there's less of me and there's more of him. So that's an interesting, but it's just difficult, because you think, you think you're taking that position, and then some life happens, something smacks you in the face, a bill pops up, or you lose your job, or, what are the, crazy situations that, I'm sure you and Kate have maybe experienced some of those as a, newly kind of, how long have y'all been married?
We just passed 2.5 years.
Jeez.
So coming up on 3.
How old are you?
25. About to turn 26.
Jeez. So you were 22? 23?
I was 22.
Jeez, man.
I think. Maybe 23. I don't know.
Jeez.
I was 23, yeah.
Have you guys had any of those like really tough marital seasons yet? Or
we walked through a really difficult time last year, kind of like the end of the summer towards the fall. It wasn't like marital, like me and Kate, but it was like the things that we were facing were heavy.
Yeah.
They were things that, like, I've had a really blessed life in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think that there was a new kind of heaviness on the challenges that we were facing.
Yeah.
It was something that I hadn't experienced in that capacity. And it was
ever before?
No. And it was something, and it's funny looking back, and I knew it in the moment too. It was like, it all happened at the same time. It was like, it couldn't just be one thing. It had to be like 4 or 5. Yeah. And they were all just like, oh.
Yeah.
But to that, it was also such a, I don't want to say rewarding time, because it was so hard, but it was like you feel so connected to God when you're at your lowest, and when you don't have, like, you're bringing nothing to the table, saying, God, like, I need you.
Yeah, nothing to the table, legit.
Yeah, and it was rewarding for our marriage, because it was like that first really, really hard season that we had to walk through, and we realized, oh, we do have a firm foundation. Our instincts were to go to the Word, and to go to like what God says and what He promises us, rather than the just total fear and anxiety that was the natural response to the things that we were facing.
Yeah. Was there anything practically, I guess, just on the flip side of that experience? You don't have to share details, but was there anything was it kind of one of those things that the things just happened as a result of life, or were they like as a result of decisions you guys made, or?
No, it was more life things. Just some stuff within our family, like health stuff.
Yeah.
And some stuff with Kate and I with our house, and we had just bought a house, and there was some stuff going on with that, and
it was just like one thing after another kind of.
It was one thing after another, and it was. I remember we had already a couple of the things had already been revealed, we were already going through them, and then another one hit, and it was of course, it was painful, and it was stressful, but it was obvious. And in that situation, it was okay, we know how to, this,
you need to bear down.
This sucks, but we know how to handle it.
Yeah.
We know what we're going to do. And that was more than any other time in my life that felt like, today, I'm just going to get through today. I'm going to do what I need to do today.
Yeah.
Because the overwhelming nature of the situation was too much to look beyond.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But what I was saying was, for Kate and I, it was a strengthening time, and it was a reassuring of okay, we're in the right place. We're doing the right things. Our foundation is where it needs to be, because when these things have come against us, and as hard as they've been, we're standing firm against it. We're not wavering in what we believe. We're not wavering against each other. Our stances are aligned, and we're taking a stand.
Yeah.
But it's still really hard.
You made the comment about foundation, and what Pastor Bill always alludes to is like building. What's the scripture about? You know, the winds come and beat against the.
Yeah, it's saying when you build your foundation on the sand or on the rock, it's like when the wind and the waves come.
Yeah,
you're going to be able to withstand it.
And that's kind of what you're alluding to.
Yeah, we were facing some wind and some waves.
Yeah,
and it hurt, but our foundation is strong.
Yeah, well, and you alluded to I think you alluded to unintentionally the fact that you recognized the season that you were in, because it's almost like you know what's happening, but you also know that not that it's a test, because we don't believe that the Lord tests us, right? But
no.
We also understand that it rains on the just and the unjust alike. We know that there are storms that we're going to face. And it's almost like the way that you're explaining it is that you realized and recognized the season. You were discerning where the season that y'all were in. And it was almost like, all right, we just got to buckle down and stand firm and, continue to speak the word. And what were some of the more, I guess, practical things? I mean, were there opportunities for you and Kate's relationship to was there any strife, or was there, I mean, I guess through what you learned during that kind of storm, give me some practical kind of applications, I guess.
I think that during that time, we always do, but we were especially focused on unity and what we're believing and what we're speaking. And I think that we learned how to support each other a little bit more because we had to.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We, I think, we're close with the Millers, and they always say, I don't know if they came up with this, but marriage is a mirror. It'll reveal things about yourself.
Okay.
It'll reveal things about yourself because you can't hide from it. And I think that time, that all the stuff that we went through, it revealed some good stuff. I mean, there's times where we had to get on the same page about what we were speaking or believing for in those certain situations. But to your point of being discerning of the times, I think that we got to a point where we just had to relinquish all control, all any idea of an expectation or it was all laid down.
Yeah.
We were, I think,
you broke down. You got broke down.
Kate went through a period last year where she was studying the word contrite. The Lord in Psalms talks about having a contrite heart.
Oh.
And I'm going to butcher this compared to how eloquently she puts it. But having a contrite heart means that I want to say that contrite means you're crushed and you're pressed and you're ground into a fine powder. It's that's where God can use you the most.
Yeah.
But you have to let go of the things that hold you back from that.
Do we have a definition for contrite?
Yeah, broken with sorrow for sin, thoroughly penitent.
Penitent.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wait, say that again. Broken
with sorrow for sin, thoroughly penitent.
Broken with sorrow for sin. Huh.
Contrite. I could look up a definition for contrite.
I think that's a great definition.
And so she was studying that.
She was studying that because I think that through that period, and honestly, through every period of your life, there's always going to be surrender. And the heart posture that she had mentioned, I don't want to steal her thunder on this.
Steal it, baby.
But when you have a contrite heart, your heart posture is just to be fully surrendered and fully available for whatever it is that either God has for you or that He's showing you or that He's bringing you through.
That's right.
And we never believed that God was authoring the challenges in our life, but we believed that He was using them, and we believed that we were strengthened through them.
Totally.
Yeah, you just got to lay it all down.
Yeah. Is it fair to say, I know it is, that y'all I guess on the bat, how long was that period, kind of that season for y'all? When did you come out of that?
It was a couple months. And it was funny the way that it happened too, in the sense of like, I talked about it being obvious, but it was all things that were like so prolonged, and you had this like dread about what could happen.
Yeah.
And that's why I talked about like, it's just, okay, I'm going to get through today. I'm not going to worry about the rest of it, because the big picture ideas of what's going on are
not good.
They're terrifying.
Yeah.
But I'll say, you know, a lot of the things that we were believing for in those situations did come to fruition. Like there was some situations that didn't, but there were some situations where, you know, the surrender and the prayers that we had to God of like, okay, God, this is what we're believing for. Like there was fruit attached to that.
Yeah.
And there was goodness and good news on the back end of what we just had thought was horrible.
What
for
could
so
have,
long.
yeah, what you in your mind could have been a terrible outcome, there ended up turning together
for sure,
for good. Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think that's why part of the surrender is so important, is so you don't live in fear of what could happen, when it's like, God, you have the outcome.
Yeah,
you already know. It could end up this way, but I'm not going to worry about it, because it could also end up a better way.
Right.
And it's like, you're in control either way. I'm just here. I'm just hopefully usable.
Yeah.
And moldable and
that's
willing
so
to
important.
see what's going on.
That's so important, because we all, I mean, all of us, I mean, I'm sure even you still too, and you never get to a point where you've mastered, like, I mean, especially if you're someone that is a critical thinker and you tend to overthink, like I do too. You're always thinking about the outcome of things, and you're thinking down the line, and like, I'm engaged right now.
Congrats. Yeah.
Thank you. Going to be getting married later this year. And so I'm starting to think about, okay, what does the wedding look like, and where's the honeymoon going to be, and first world problems here, obviously. But like buying a house and like all the things, you know, and so, and it's easy to like think about those things or think about whatever and wonder how it's going to work, or where's the money going to come from, or then also potentially ponder, because we are sinful in nature, what the worst possible outcome for everything is. And then I can especially imagine that's magnified whenever you're being pressed from multiple different angles in a season by multiple different things. It's so easy to become like cynical and negative, and I mean, just taking it. And that would have been the easier decision for you guys in that season of like, just thinking, oh man, throwing your hands up and be like, why me? Why is all this coming at me at one time? But just, I think taking those seasons and using them as opportunities for growth and for strength. I mean, and you're in Kate's relationship was strengthened, I can only imagine. And just going into, man, that's what people need to understand. What we need to understand more is like, it's really without those seasons of life that you're never going to grow.
Yeah.
You're just not. I mean, I was in a season of life before starting the internship here where it was kind of like, it was honestly much different than I'm sure y'all's, but the same in the sense that like, I was having to take life day by day because it was like almost dreadful. Yeah. But I just knew that I had to get up and I had to put my boots on and I had to keep moving. And, you know, but coming out of that season, there's almost like a pride, like you earned it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where it's like you went through so there's like not a bad pride, but there's a pride to like that you get to now walk and operate in a different like level because you've been through it. So
I think you get a confidence knowing what God has brought you through. Uh-huh. Like when you face whatever it is that comes next, you're like, okay, God already did this for me. This new thing isn't going to cause, it's not a hiccup.
Exactly.
I already know where I stand. I already know what to believe. I already know that God is good.
Right.
And so I don't have to question all that.
Yeah. And I'm someone too that I guess through seasons of life in the past that have been difficult, I guess I tend to now think, I mean, it's easy to think, I know that there's going to be more storms in the future. So it's easy to be intimidated by that, because I think the storms will only continue to get bigger as we mature and as we, but just keeping that mindset of every time that there is a storm, this is just strengthening me. This is just going to be building me up so that I can be elevated, not for my own sake, but for the sake of the kingdom.
Yeah.
It's a really important mindset to take, I think. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So
mature, so good.
Yeah, man, so mature, so good.
I find, but Kate and I have had the conversation multiple times, like in multiple different seasons of our life, where it always feels like the season that we're in now is always preparing us for the next season.
Always.
So I feel like you have to be able to be, I don't know if adaptable is the word, but you have to be able to be like moldable with what is happening right now so that you're prepared for the next thing.
And it's like you can almost elongate that season if you're not, right? It's like the Israelites being in the wilderness for 40 years, and it wasn't supposed to be that long, right? You can elongate that season by not submitting yourself, by not humbling yourself, and it just takes the Lord longer to do what he could have done in a shorter amount of time if you would have submitted quicker and more deeper, So I think that's important to recognize too. But I know you got to get back to the office and start slinging some real estate deals. But appreciate you coming on and any parting thoughts.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Let's do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again. You do a great job.
Yeah, well,
appreciate you, Cole.
I just literally sit down and talk, so it's kind of fun.
I know, but even going back to like before you started the internship and everything, I feel like I've seen you grow a lot in your confidence and your faith. And it's cool to be your friend watching all that.
I appreciate it. Peace.